Hi, this is Tim Von Rieden with cgcookie.com, and in this video tutorial, I am going through part 2 of the creature series. In the last part, I went through creating 10 silhouettes of randomly generated creature concepts, and in this part, I will go through taking 3 of those and building further upon them. I will spend about 15 minutes on each, but only have the first one in real time. Okay, let's get started. In Photoshop, I have the file open from part 2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that overlay and the shadows, because those are mainly used to showcase the silhouettes a little better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and erase 7 of these guys, and I'm going to focus on only 3 of them. So I think I'm going to use one of these, and then these 2. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these 3 different creatures on their own layers, so that way it's easier to work upon them without having them be on the exact same layer. So to do that, I'm going to grab my lasso tool. I'm just going to grab the deer one first. I'm going to copy it, Command C, and Command V to paste. Or wait, before I do that, I'm going to delete it. So while it's selected, delete, and then paste. And I did that because when you paste it, if you look over here, a new layer was created. And actually, I guess I could take away all these other layers really quick to better showcase it. So this layer has these 2 creatures on it, and then this one has only the deer. And then from there, I'm going to take it, and holding Shift, I can keep the proportions the same. I'm just making it larger. And then Enter to end it. And I'm going to do the same with the bug. So I'm going to grab my lasso tool, select it, I'm going to copy it with Command C, delete it, and then paste it. Because when I do that, it becomes on its own layer. I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to resize it, hold Shift to constrain that proportion, and Enter to finish it off. And the mosquito guy, since the other 2 were deleted off his layer, he already has his own layer. And I'm just going to fit these a little better. And then I'm going to take away the numbers that are just kind of floating. So I'm just going to quickly rename these. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and get started on putting a little detail into each of these creatures. So I'm going to hide the number 2 and 3. I'm just going to focus on this deer. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a brush. And this is the one I normally like to get started with because it's pretty much like the circle brush, but it has a little bit of an edge to it. You can see how when I lay it down, it has those different circle strokes in it. So what I like to do is I like to create a new layer and then lay down the color either below or on top. So like for this one, I guess I can put it below the silhouette layer first. And just kind of fill it in with a base color. And in the description I was given of this creature, it was a magical deer that had no tail. So instead of just going with a normal color, I'm going to go ahead and choose kind of a turquoisey dark blue color to kind of be my base for this deer. Something like that. And then I can start drawing on top of the silhouette. So I'm going to grab a slightly lighter blue color. And in my head, I'm imagining that the light is coming from this direction, or more like this direction. So I'm going to use that when I'm laying down this color, because the light is going to hit these areas and the color is going to reflect back a little lighter. Definitely highlight the areas like the horns and the ears near the top where the light would be hitting it the strongest. And then to collapse the layers down, you can go to Layer and Merge Down, but I have it set on Command E. So I'm just going to merge these 3 layers together into one, because I definitely notice some things I want to edit. Like I want this leg to be kind of more forward. And that's the nice thing about silhouettes, is starting off you can move and rearrange things without really affecting the picture as a whole. So it's really easy to fix it up really quick. So from here, if I just grab my brush, if I hold Alt for my eyedropper tool, you can just lay it right back in with the color. Like that. And something I also recommend is flipping your image horizontally a lot. I have mine set at Command Q, but if you go to Image, Image Rotation, and flip the canvas horizontally, so flip it to give you a new perspective on your image and maybe see something you wouldn't have saw in the perspective you were looking at. So like from here, I'm going to liquefy it because it looks like that back leg is bending out kind of at a weird angle. So I definitely recommend using liquefy, but only for small edits. You can definitely get carried away in liquefy and you can just start pushing and pulling your entire piece, but after a while it'll look a little blurry because of how much you're pulling it. So I recommend only doing it a little bit and only for smaller edits. And then if I toggle between the two, you can see the small difference it made. And also while painting, it's important to have the eraser tool handy too, because this can definitely clean up an edge and give it more interest to the shape, or you can edit it so it looks a little more appropriate than it did before. And it also helps with the color, because then you might be erasing a lot of that excess color that kind of got overlapped, and you're just leaving it with a nice clean line. Okay, so now I feel like it's time that we can go up a color again. So when I do these basic detail renders, I like to use mainly a limited amount of colors. It's usually like around 4. And I do that because I don't want to spend too much time on it, because if you're doing this for a client or something and they want a bunch of different silhouettes with a bunch of these little renders to kind of show off what the creature is going to look like a little bit more, it becomes kind of a big pain if you're trying to use a bunch of different colors to really render it and make it look nice if it's not even the direction that the client wanted in the first place. So try to keep it simple and just keep your basic lighting tactics and techniques in mind, and then just use them with your color, because it would definitely save you a lot of time and effort to kind of condense how you make these. So this is my 4th color, which is a little bit more saturated. This is kind of where I see the light hitting the deer the strongest. So I'm adding this a little bit more of a saturated color to it to kind of show that off. Then from here, I usually don't zoom in too much on a silhouette piece. That's because you don't want to get stuck into detailing it. But I'll definitely zoom in a little bit for areas that are a little bit more prevalent, like the face and anywhere else that would catch the viewer's eye right away, and you want to clean that up a little bit. So now in places where it would highlight, I'm going to grab that very saturated color that I put down and do a very, very intense color for where the light would be really hitting these areas that would highlight it back. I'm also remembering that time is a factor, so I'm trying to work quickly but not sloppy. It's kind of a key factor to doing silhouettes and then building upon them. Because even though they're quick and you want to work on them fast, you don't want to make them look sloppy. You still want to make it look nice enough where you could then render and detail right upon them without having to erase or rework a ton of stuff. And some of these magic charms or whatever these are on the ankles, I'm just going to give them some reflecting light back. And do the same for the antlers. And lastly, the very, very highlighted areas that would reflect the pure white right back. And these just help out round out the figure more, add a little bit more value and shape to it. So you can see when I zoom out, you can kind of imagine the form and shape that this deer has been given. I'm just going to clean up the antlers a little bit more. Even though antlers are kind of assumed to be a certain shape and everything, that's why you don't have to clean them up too much, because if you really wanted to render this out, then you would go in and really make the antlers look nice, but I'm going to make these look a little bit nicer than what they were looking like before. I'm going to take that arrow out. And I'm going to re-add the shadow, make it a little lighter, not as harsh as the one I did for the silhouette one. And then flip it back, just see what it's looking like, zoom out. And there we go. It looks like my 15 minutes are up for this guy. So now I'm going to go ahead and start working on the beetle, but I'm going to time lapse the other two, but I'm going to be using the same exact techniques. So just something to go through is use color very wisely. Don't use too many. Make it very limited. Focus on the shape and form, so where the light's hitting it, and use that while you're placing your color as well. And then use highlights only to round it out. Use it as something to give it more form. So here, I'm going to go ahead and isolate the second creature that I have done and get started. So I'm going to lay down more of a maroon color, and for the actual color choices, I'm just kind of trying to show a variation of color choices that can be used. So for the deer, I use more of a blue-green. This one I'm going to be using more of a purple-red, and the next one I'm going to be using more of a yellow-orange. So color choices are very important, but for this tutorial I'm just kind of showing the different colors that can be used and how to blend certain ones together. So for this one, I see him being more of a darker color, so I'm not worrying too much about how much color I'm laying in, but rather I'm going to worry about the highlights that are going to be hitting him and how that surface texture is going to reflect that light back. So right now I'm cleaning out the outside edge with the eraser tool. I'm giving him more of a shape, so like things like giving him a face and things like that that were unrecognizable before. So now here I'm just blending in a little bit, and then for the color choices I'm going to make it a little bit more warm for where the color, or for where the light's going to be hitting it a little bit more solidly. And I'm just giving the guy a little bit more highlights around his legs, trying to give it more of a shape and a form to it rather than it looking flat. So you can see the difference between these front legs and the back legs about how different they look, because the back ones look flat without that color on it. So now I'm going to actually add in some light color, so like direct color of the light that's going to be hitting this beetle octopus or beetle squid thing. So like before I'm highlighting it, I'm not adding my speculars yet because I'm going to have that be a pure white, but I'm using this as more of a guide to where I'm going to be placing my speculars. So now I'm laying it down as dots because that surface of that shell is going to be, there's going to be an irregularity to it. So it's not going to be a perfectly smooth shell. There's going to be little bumps and crevices throughout the shell. So to show that, I'm using those dots to kind of highlight that. Then I'm going ahead, cleaning some areas up, trying not to zoom in too much, remembering that this is just the second detail pass and that I'm not trying to render it yet, rather just give it more of a kind of idea of where it would be going to if I started rendering it for a final piece. So then I gave it a basic shadow, and here I just decided I would give it some more interest in the actual underbody. So maybe these would be like the sacs of eggs or something that would be under the actual creature. And this is where I got to a point where I decided I would move on to the next, because I'm not trying to spend too much time, like I said. So now for this one, I'm going underneath the actual creature layer, and I'm just painting that yellow over. And I'm doing some masking out, which means I won't be able to color on anywhere that isn't part of the creature. So you can see how while I was drawing, I was staying in that silhouette line. And that's what masking will do. So it's a great thing to do if you have more of a complicated shape, kind of like this, and you just want to keep it confined in that space. So now here I'm just adding a 3-color layer to it, which is basically a dark, medium, and then highlights. And I'm going ahead and I'm doing this to everywhere. And then now I'm cleaning up with the eraser tool, giving it more of a shape and actual anatomy to the pose. Because since this is such a strange and irregular pose with these 6 arms coming out of his side, I have to make it look at least believable. So you have to kind of clean up the edges, make it so that the inner workings of the body make sense. Now here I'm just giving a basic texture to that fuzz. So by doing that, I'm just doing short strokes all the way around. And for the head, I imagine this being more, rather than a soft body like his actual body, more of like a mosquito, where it's more of insecty and has more of a reflective surface to it. So that's why I'm adding more highlights to the head than anywhere else. And here I'm just giving him better looking hands because the silhouette ones are pretty choppy. I'm still not spending too much detail on them, but enough where you can kind of see or recognize that they are hands from farther away. Then from here I'm just adding a little bit of shadow, giving them a little bit more form. I'm trying to round this character out. So that's the whole point of going from a silhouette stage to this stage, is you're trying to round it out a bit more, give it a sense of where this creature would be going if you're in a state where you would start rendering it. So I'm just doing basic details and highlights pretty much. And there you can see I added that secondary color to kind of add a little bit more interest to it. And now lastly, I'm going to be adding an overlay layer to each just to kind of highlight the light that's hitting it. But normally I wouldn't do this until the very end of rendering, but this is just to kind of showcase the creatures off a little bit more. So if I started rendering one of these, I would delete these overlay layers and wait till the very end to do it. But just for this tutorial and to showcase it better, I'm going to put those on. So there we go. Those are my 3 creatures. I hope you learned something, and thanks for watching.